If we asked you to name a famous innovator, who would you think of? Someone who had a brilliant idea that made us question the way we live? Someone that was so smart they were able to create machines and computers? Well, a lot of theories and innovations start with maths and science. So let's take a look at some of those people with bright ideas through history.
Galileo Galilei lived from 1564 to 1647, and he lived in a time where people didn't think science was important, they just learnt from what ancient philosophers had to say. Galileo actually wanted to test theories though, to see if you could observe the scientific idea actually happening. So this was the start of scientific method. He built his own telescope and became an astronomer, discovering that Jupiter had 4 moons and that the moon was covered in craters rather than smooth. In 1632 he wrote a book that proved that the Earth orbited the sun, which went against the current beliefs. He was actually put in prison for writing this book because it went against the Catholic Church.
Isaac Newton was called the smartest person who ever lived by Einstein because of his scientific discoveries. In 1687, he published his most famous work, Mathematical Principles of Natural Philosophy, that described the laws of motion and the law of gravity. All very important and innovative discoveries. His ideas are still used today with the principles of physics, so the ideas he had all the way back then are some of the most important ideas for the history of science.
Carl Linnaeus came up with a system for naming all living things and classifying plants and animals because he was a botanist, which means that he studied plants. He actually had a medical degree but went on to write books about nature and botany. His systems are still used in the study of biology and have been expanded lots, but its original 3 classifications of the kingdom of nature into stones, plants or animals that started it all. He was knighted in 1758.
Another innovative thinker in the scientific world was Charles Darwin. He studied nature and came up with the theory of evolution by natural selection, showing that living things have to adapt and change to survive. In 1831, he set off on his famous journey on HMS Beagle, where he studied nature in South America. This 5-year trip is where he formed his theory of evolution. He also published a book in 1859 called On the Origin of Species that explained his ideas further, which was a huge success, except with the people who believed that God created everything.
In 1881, the first ever power stations opened, and they used DC, direct current, for their power. But Nikola Tesla realised there was another current, AC, alternating current. This one could actually change direction, whereas the other couldn't, so he built the first AC motor in 1883. His other inventions led to developments in radio, TV, and a lot of electronic equipment. He even had the first idea for creating wireless electricity, but he didn't live long enough to complete this.
Marie Curie won a Nobel Prize alongside her husband in 1903 after they discovered 2 new elements, polonium and radium, and for her research into radiation. So she's the first woman to win a Nobel Prize. A Nobel Prize is one of the most famous achievements for a scientist, so it's pretty cool. The elements she discovered were radioactive, so actually helped to make the pictures on X-rays better. During World War I, she even created mobile X-ray units that would help the soldiers on the battlefield.
Albert Einstein realised that matter, the tiny particles that make up objects, could be turned into energy and back again, and he even came up with an equation to do this. You might have heard of it, it's E equals mc squared, and do you know what? That made him famous. He also published his theory of relativity in 1915 that explained gravity. Now, of course we know Newton had already discovered gravity, but it's Einstein who actually managed to figure out how the planet had gravity.
DNA is what makes you, you. It carries the information in cells around your body to tell it how to build itself. That's very basic terms. In 1951, Rosalind Franklin was researching X-rays and decided to investigate what DNA looked like and how it was built. Her research then helped James Watson and Francis Crick, who discovered that DNA is shaped in a double helix, or like a twisted ladder.
Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed learning about these amazing scientific discoveries. Do you have a favourite, or is there a scientific discovery that you've got in your mind and we're going to be talking about you in a couple years' time? If you want to know more about science, then head over to the Little Historians magazine website and purchase our Innovators edition, where you can learn even more. Make sure you like and subscribe so you can watch next time. Bye!